What are looking like the strongest classes moving into Season of Discovery? What are going to be some of the best builds, some of the best tanks or healers? What are some of the talents you're going to run or some of the runes you're actually going to be using? And does this game actually feel like classic World of Warcraft? Does it still have that magic that we all know and love when playing classic WoW? Well, today we invited Hammerdance, a new WoW classic creator focused on Season of Discovery, onto the podcast to discuss all of these things and quite literally, hopefully, all of your questions that you have for Season of Discovery. And I'm also working on full guides on how to get yourself prepared for Season of Discovery launch. But of course, before we even see the game, we don't know if anything is official. They might have some actual changes in the game, and we'll discuss that today. So hopefully you learned something about this new version of WoW Classic, and if you like the show or want us to discuss any other topics, of course, let me know in the comments. All right, guys, well, welcome back to the Classic Life podcast, where we go over everything classic in video gaming, mostly obviously World of Warcraft. Today with the announcements or the news on Season of Discovery, we're going to break down as much as we can moving into WoW Classic and Season of Discovery. And we are joined by a very special guest here, Hammerdance, who has been making a ton of content on Season of Discovery. Can you go and introduce yourself and welcome to the show?
What's up, guys? I'm Hammerdance. Yep, I decided to start getting my Warcraft channel off the ground with Season of Discovery, and it's working out. I really enjoy making the content. I think Season of Discovery is like a super cool thing that Blizzard is doing, and it's the perfect time to kind of jump in and learn all this stuff with everybody.
Yeah, you've been breaking down literally every single class, which I think is great for people that want to know all of the new loot, all of the new runes, what is going to look good on each of the classes, what are things that might not be necessarily as good on each of the classes. So there's a ton of things that's coming out, and there's going to be a lot of class reworks that are really changing the way we're going to experience Classic. So it's going to be pretty fun. Crix, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm excited to be back here doing this. I'm excited to hang out with Hammerdance. I've been watching this stuff for before he was even doing this stuff, when he did a lot of this hardcore, like he used to do the immersive ones where you just be relaxing playing the game. And that was, obviously the whole point of hardcore, in my opinion, is the peacefulness in the world. And then he popped out with these randomly, and I was really happy. When the first one I saw was this one right here, and I was like, oh, okay. And he just started spamming them, and I'm loving it, man. I am. But yeah, I can't complain. I'm excited for Seasons of Discovery. I'm very excied for it. I think a lot of people are excited for it. I just did not expect it at all. I think nobody did. Like, we were at BlizzCon, the Sarthe was sitting right next to me with Jordy and, Showback and a bunch of other people, and we were expecting a classic play. We expected Kata, they said it. We expected retail expansion, they said it. And then we were like, expected something with classic. I don't know what it was, but we did not expect this one. That was, nobody expected this, I don't think. Like, at all.
Nobody.
We knew the name. Like, we found out the name a few days before. So we were kind of like, discover something. It's going to be something new. And this is definitely new.
So you guys knew the name before?
Sarthe knew the name. He got the email or something from somebody, and then it kind of just spread around.
And I did a good job. I didn't tell anybody.
You didn't even tell me.
I didn't even
Someone
tell
else
you.
told me.
I didn't tell Jordy. I was in a car ride on the way to Blizzard, and I literally didn't. Jordy got so mad at me. He was like, why would you just tell me? I was like, I don't know, man. I don't think they were supposed to send it. And then there was a second email that was like, oh, by the way, we weren't supposed to say the name in that email, so don't say that to anyone else.
Yeah, so you can trust the Sarthe with the knowledge. We'll just beg it out of him.
I was proud of myself. But I had some inklings. I knew what to expect. I knew we were going to get a new version of Classic World of Warcraft. I knew that we were going to have like class reworks, and I didn't know what extent. And I think the extent is much further than everybody really expected, and even way further initially when it was first announced than people kind of wanted, until the deep dive. Like, I was a little bit nervous until the deep dive and until I played it. And once I got to actually play the game, I was like, this is the sickest thing ever. This is so cool. So like the very first initial announcement was like worrying. You're like, are they going to do it okay? And I think they're going to do it right. But Hammerdance, what did you think of the initial announcement? Like, what were your thoughts on this all as we're leading into Season of Discovery?
Yeah, so I like you guys, I was not expecting it at all. I was actually just eating lunch, watching it on my couch. And when they announced it and like said what it was, I had to stand up. I was like,
he was
what?
Like,
what is this? Yeah. And I personally, I right off the bat was excited. I was like, you know what? This is exactly like kind of what we need, because I have this theory that I'll share with you guys that like I have for the past like month, I was actually arguing with a friend about this, but I think that the best way for them to do a Classic Plus is seasonal. And the reason for that is because if they didn't do it seasonal and it was a permanent server that went on for like 3-4 years, kept going, in my opinion, it would just turn into like retail 2.0, because that old content would become irrelevant, which is like when you do seasonal content, right? Like maybe Classic Plus next year or the year after is different than Season of Discovery. It's still Classic Plus. It's different new content. You know what I mean? So that, like, I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I feel like this was like the best way to do something like this, because it keeps everything relevant, keeps everyone like playing at the same time together. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think about that theory?
I like it. I think that this Season of Discovery is like a beta for Classic Plus. I think we're going to go to BlizzCon next year and be sitting in those same seats, and they're going to be like, guys, you guys like Seasons. We did some changes. We're going to make it better. Here's Classic Plus. That's my take.
I don't know if we'll get like a different Classic Plus. I know that's like a very like common thread going around the internet. I think this is like not necessarily a beta, but it's like testing out what we all like. And then if things are very, like if people get attached to different aspects of Season of Discovery, that can roll over into the next season. I think in general, I think their tendency right now is leaning towards seasonal, like you were saying. And I think it's like just thinking about the game in a seasonal aspect. So what is the next version? It's gonna have a different gimmick or a different thing. And so it's always this fresh take on the version of World of Warcraft Classic. I think time gating it or like level gating it is something that is amazing in the essence of we're getting a lot of new stuff. So having everybody just rush to level 60 and then figure it out is kind of gonna like be relatively overwhelming. And you also want to be able to test out all the different classes. So I think level gating it is really nice. We're gonna go straight up to 25 in like one play session, and then you'll know how good that class is and you'll try out different ones. They're gonna have to do like a ton of balancing, because things are just like all over the place. But yeah. I think this seasonal is a really, really good way of doing it. And I think it's a lot better than the first season. I think Season of Mastery was something I wasn't super hyped about outside of our Road to Ragnaros hardcore run. This is something that's like new. And if we weren't going to get like just a fresh, this is like what I think is kind of necessary. That video is just 720p. I streamed in 720.
It's background stage. So I'm just gonna play for me watching the background from the BFD raid that he did. We all did it, but Sarthe was actually able to stream from there. So this is just his run. I'll bounce back and forth between his POV and like Guzu's and everyone else that was there doing it, just to have some background stuff.
Yeah, I was able to test this out for the very literally minutes after the live announce. We had to like run. I had to run to like from one end of BlizzCon to the other to get over there and set up to be able to test this out with like the devs that made it. So like Agran is in here, Tim Jones, Dara Diba, Morgan, like a lot of them are in it. And then Svan, Guzu, and Sony wasn't with us. Fandy was. Yeah, this is like this was the first time anyone got to experience it. And after the announce, this was like great, figuring everything out. It gets me very, very excited. There's a lot of Easter eggs that they have within the raid alone, but like a lot of like little things, little aspects that are really fun, and they add some flavor to Classic that wasn't necessarily there before, but still feels very classic World of Warcraft.
Well, that's a good segue, because like, how do you guys feel about that? So obviously, for those that don't know or are living under a rock, they're gonna cap SOD at level 25, and there's a 10-man raid, which is only gonna be a BFD so far. How do you guys feel about it being BFD? How do you feel about it? Not minus of how the raid felt. There's 3 bosses open, but like 7 bosses total when it launches. How do you feel about it being BFD? What was your thoughts when they first said that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with it being BFD, and one of the main reasons being that it's in Ashenvale, and it's like a contested zone, right? So it kind of is like the first zone where like Horde and Alliance are going to be meeting, and it kind of synergizes well with like the world PvP event that they're creating there. And like Ashenvale is just, to me at least, I've been playing, since the beginning of WoW, like when it was actually vanilla. Like Ashenvale and BFD are just like super iconic. And BFD actually is one of those dungeons where I feel like you either love it or you hate it. And there's some people who actually hate BFD, and I know people like that. But I think it was a good choice specifically because of the zone, because it is large, right? So it can feel like a raid, you know?
Yeah. Sarthe?
Yeah, and I think one thing that's good for them to do, I think this was actually a good choice. I was nervous about it at first, is to have some of the raids while you're leveling be reworks of places that you have experience, but it's like a completely different way of dealing with something that you have experienced. Like this first boss is Baron Aquinas, and he's usually, I believe, a horde only quest mob. And so he's a boss, and like just knowing that he's a Baron, like Baron Geddon in Molten Core, they added like some mechanics to it that are very similar, where one person gets a debuff that would be like the bomb, quote unquote, right? And they added even more mechanics, but like I like the idea as a min-maxer of them adding mechanics. It makes the game fun as well for me, but having this be like very reminiscent of like the older version of the game, right? Like you're still experiencing new raids, but it's in the old world. I think that's nice because I think it's cool because everyone's excited for like a Scarlet Monastery raid. And then from there though, then they're building out like completely new raids and new dungeons and new zones. And like it trickles in with like familiarity with the new, and then you get fully new. I have the weirdest hopium because I'm getting really excited about it all and getting really, really hyped. And I think there's things definitely that are not necessarily all good, but I think giving us these 10-man early raids, and they're on a 3-day lockout, is going to be nice. And you don't have to know life. You don't have to know life Season of Discovery
At all.
Like you're level
Season of
25.
Dads.
Yeah,
Season of
exactly.
Dads, yeah.
Did you see that video?
No,
that I
I'm gonna
sent?
show it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. The Season of Dads one, it's going around today, and it's really, really funny. It's really good. It's made by AI, but that's what it is though. Like at least at the earlier levels, it's Season of Dads, but at the max level, I think there's going to be a lot of min-maxing. I think there's going to be a lot of like speed running and a new meta and all of this craziness that you can play with while everyone else doesn't have to follow the meta anymore. Like no one else is forced to follow the meta.
Yeah.
Right.
I
do have a
go
question
ahead,
for
Frank.
either one of you guys. Since you both got to play at BlizzCon, with the addition of like all the new abilities and the runes and all that stuff, does it feel different than playing vanilla WoW? Because you know, like if you're playing Wrath Classic, right, and you're playing Classic Era, they both feel very different. Does it still feel like Classic Era, or does it feel more like Wrath of the Lich King?
From me, it definitely felt more like Wrath because I was playing. I made a Warlock, as everyone knows, and I was in meta. That's like the biggest tail. Yep. Not just was I in meta, but I'm meta with Chaos Bolt, Incinerate, and spells that you normally wouldn't get. It also felt really. Some of the classes feels more retail-y. It definitely doesn't feel like. The only thing that felt like, honestly, the only thing that feels about Classic Era vibes is the fact that we're in BFD and Ashenvale, and we're level 25, and we're leveling in those zones. If I'm being honest, which I don't mind, I'm classic, but I like retail too, so I don't care which as long as it's fun. My biggest thing against classic and retail is the retail graphics don't really speak to me. I like this like, you know, it's like kind of really cartoony and like, you know, that's what I don't like. But it definitely felt more like Lich King. A lot of some of these classes feel a lot like Lich King. Mage felt a lot like a retail with all their new stuff because they incorporate a lot of the runes are Lich King runes, or you know, future spells they get from Lich King retail. But it was hard it was hard to think of classic why I'm in meta, you know.
Right. That's what I figured, yeah.
Some classes feel way more way further from the classic World of Warcraft than others. Like Rogue and Warrior both feel very similar to classic WoW early on, especially as you're waiting on your energy. You have like Rogue DPS, you're probably like, there's a couple specs, but like if you're running the Mutilate build, it was basically that was replacing Backstab, and you're still using your finisher as Slice and Dice, and then sometimes being able to use Envenom. But if you were playing like something like Crix is saying, like a Warlock tank, that's a full rework. That's a completely different thing. And so the fights felt classic-like, but I feel like some of the classes definitely feel different or feel like more like Wrath with the more abilities, but still felt like the magic for me felt like it was the magic of classic, just with abilities, right? If you're normally level 25, I was trying to explain this to someone, but if you're normally level 25, you have one ability and maybe a second one.
Yep.
And
if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're level 60 as a warlock, you have two things to do. One, you throw up a fucking curse of recklessness or something. That's all right. Throw that on every target and then sit there and press Shadow Bolt, right? Like that's might be the classic feeling, but that is a shit feeling. Excuse my language, but like that's not fun. So being able to play the classic grades and hit for the classic amount of damage while now having like maybe 3 to 4 abilities you can use is so much more fun than being able to just sit there and like you have one thing to do. The only class that had an actual rotation in classic was warrior, and warrior had to still fill some of their like dead space with things like hamstring to try to proc Wind Fury, right? Most of classic really doesn't, like, you realize when you're raiding, you really don't have that much to do. Most of classic is like open world and experiencing things, but in raids there's very few abilities you get to utilize. So I think this really lends itself to raids will be a lot more fun. The PvP is going to be off the fucking wall. It's going to be wild. But your actual experience playing the game is going to be more fun because it's a lot more interactive.
Yeah, Warlock's got like a rework, complete rework. There's nothing that you're doing the same pretty much at all. Like you're still gonna you're still putting up curse, but like it was quite literally like a complete class rework, which obviously
Thank
like.
Gosh, you would never want to
do that. Mage got a good rework too. Like there's a couple. I know there's some classes that feel like they didn't change much, but Warlock definitely probably changed the most out of everything. It's like it's completely backwards. Even your Shadow Bolt spits 5 Shadow Bolts out instead of 1. There's the only thing that you do the same is fucking put a curse up. And corruption's the same. Everything else was changed. It's kind of crazy to me. Yeah, my mind's blown on it, to be honest.
Look at exactly what Agron just said. He said, I can tell from starting from level 1, it's a slow burn to get to the point where Crix you're describing. And even then, outside in the world, it feels very classic. Obviously, biased opinion, but I felt that too. It's like, we're level 25. And I was saying this earlier, is like the time gating is really good because it trickles us down to like still feeling like the very classic world, whilst also not overwhelming us with these new abilities. But on top of that, the magic, I think this is like gonna be something that I'm getting way too stoked on, is like I always like finding new things, and we're gonna like be like, is that little rock over there, is that new? And you click on it and it turns into like a fucking octopus or something. You know? And then that drops like a rune, and it's like a raid boss out randomly in the open world that spawns once every like 3rd blue moon or something.
It's gonna be addicting finding these runes.
Yeah,
because this is the hype of this entire season is, we already know we're speed levelers. We're hit, that's 8-10 hour done leveling, right? And then we're gonna speed run, we're gonna speed level, we're gonna clear the raid, and then just like I know all 3 of us in here and more people in chat are gonna just, I'm not sleeping until I find like meta, like all my runes. Obviously I can't say all the runes because I don't know, and I think that's what's the best part of it, is we don't know how long it takes to find all the runes, which is a very good. I have a good question for you guys. I'm going to answer it first, though. How long do you think it's going to take to unlock all the runes? I hope it's like, I hope to God all the runes are not found in like a day or 2. I hope it's like a week and we're like, I finally found it. I feel like it's not going to be because of the internet, but like, you know.
Realistically, I think it's going to be a few days, 2 or 3 days. And then within 7 days, there will be like guides and add-ons and things for every single one. Just because information spreads so fast, you know, like the second one rune is found, that's just permanently like everyone is going to know that now.
The interesting thing is I was trying to plan this with some of the guys that when we did the Hardcore All-Stars tournament, but if you do like if we can put together a dueling tournament, but like 2 or 3 days into the actual launch, because people don't have all of the runes. So if people hoard or hide where they found these runes early on to have some sort of competitive advantage in something, but right after that, yes, it's all going to be shared. There's going to be a billion guides. We're all going to make videos on it. Wowhead is going to data mine every single thing, and then the community is going to be like, no, I never want to see that. And then they're going to look and read the guide on the data mining anyways. Savages. Please, I hope things I'm personally really excited for the idea of a genuine discovery, like finding things out and then coming in to like theory crafting. So once we get like where we find all the runes, and once we find a bunch of like secret things, and I think there's going to be secrets, like there's a secret apparently in Dragonflight that I think was discovered like a month or less than a month ago, that was like a mount or something that was in the game since launch. And it was like there's all these like little puzzles that could happen, and I think that's an exciting thing for them to be able to do. But then how this plays out together in raiding situations or in PvP, it's none of it is like solved, and Classic is like one of the most solved games of all time. People have been playing this exact version of the game for 20 plus years. So now it's all different, and it's like, how can we do the most out of this? How can we maybe not even just min max it, but like, how can I have the most fun? You won't be forced to pigeonhole into something. Hopefully I'll make guides, and then hopefully your guild won't force you to play that like Unholy DK or something. Sorry if you didn't want to play Unholy DK and Wrath, but I think there's a lot of excitement in it, and I think it for me, it felt, from playing it still felt very Classic, and that was the biggest fear, and I think that's everyone's biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, definitely.
I think that the smartest thing in the world that they did was with no PTR, no beta. That was even more smart. When they said here's season discovery, and they started talking about it, and all of a sudden he closed with no PTR beta November 30th. I think I shit my pants. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you'll play it at the end of this month.
Yeah, because like you get torn, because it's like we make content, so it's like all three of us would be like, yeah, dude, if there was, we'd be no lifing it, and then there's no discovery. But like I like that there's none. It's gonna be dope. Because instead of that, it's all frantically people are trying to make content on stuff we don't know. No, all three of us don't. We're just like speculating or big theory crafting or what we. I think, and just like from all the data mine thing from Wowhead, I think Blizzard's just letting people know what they want to know, and that's not even gonna change. I think there's everything that's in data mine is gonna be like, all right, well, let's change this up. It's not everything. Like having the other slots, we already knew that was going to happen, right? But I don't know. I don't think the data mine's always going to be true, because they can definitely swap some shit up. Like if people find too much stuff out, they can be like, you know what? Let's do this.
I hope they leave
Let's do this.
Easter eggs in the
like
data mining too.
Yeah, I don't want everything to be discovered right away. Like I don't want everything in the world to be discovered right away. I just hope that back to that topic. I just hope that it takes a while to get some runes. I know there's a chance that it's day 3 and everybody found them all, but between people, the internet and videos and whatever, I honestly think it's going to be found quick. I just hope it's not. Leave some, because that's going to be the excitement of it. This first week of seasons is probably going to be the most fun I think a lot of us have had playing World of Warcraft, even more than like Classic launch, TBC. I'm more excited for this than the TBC launch. I'm a TBC Andy. Like the Lich King launch, Kata coming up. For those who are excited about Kata, this is like different. This is next level. This is a change on a game that we've been playing for 15,000 years.
Yeah. And I think that the mass amount of discovery that's going to go on, and like combine that with what Sarthe was saying, is that it still has that like vanilla, like classic magic. You're right. Like it's going to be the most fun. And I've played, thousands of hours of Warcraft this year. And it's going to be the most fun that I know I'm going to have had, rolling around with all your friends, like even after so you're going to hit 25 so fast. Right, you're gonna do the raid. Now you have 3 days. You're gonna scour the world for all of your runes. While you're doing that, you can do Warsong Gulch. You're gonna be world PvPing. Like I said before. So much fun. Yeah, and if I'm playing Ret Pally, I'm finding some random feral to just run around with me, and it's gonna be an absolute blast. Like I really can't wait for it. I'm hyped.
I meant to ask this in the beginning. What are you maining, Hammer?
So I'm usually a Lock fanboy.
Yes, good answer. But
I'm a Warlock fanboy, but there's just
I knew there was a but.
Yeah, there's part of me that really. I know. I kind of want to try Ret Pally, but I don't know. It's going to be a game time decision.
Yeah, you're really on Paladin, dog. You are on Ret Pally's nuts. Yeah, I know, but god damn,
it's insane, man.
We should talk about this after you say who you're maining.
We should, because I don't know a lot about Paladin, so maybe you can break it down for me.
There's some runes that literally I think need to be reined into reality, because they are in the realm of that's crazy, and that'll be crazier at higher levels, but like it's so strong. There's a few classes in specific, but like there's a very, very few runes. But Crix, I'm assuming you're going to be playing a Warlock main. I'm
going Warlock Mage and then another Warlock. Yeah, I want to tank a DPS Warlock, obviously, because you can't do both. I'm doing DPS with our guild, with the Ampi guild, because he won't let me tank, because he wants to do the typical like tanks. And then I'm doing a community guild on the lion side where I'll just tank. And then I want a mage, not a healing mage.
Dude, tanking in BFDs, it should be pretty easy anyways.
I know, it's just I want to do it long term. It'd be fun. It's Ompy.
Yeah.
You can't talk Ompy into doing something he doesn't want to do. You know that.
Or something that's like very suboptimal.
Yeah, you're not going to talk Ompy into doing anything that he does not want to do, yeah. And he's also a main tank too, so like you can't, you know what I mean? It makes sense.
He's gonna have to run like all of the tanks, like literally every one of the fights, or especially towards the higher levels. There's gonna be so much variation in which tanks are better for which situations. Like Warlock tank is looking to be. Warlock and Shaman tank are probably going to be the strongest for dungeons and trash. And there's some bosses, like especially if there's like a little bit of ads, they could be like the best. Rogue tanks can like hit like 102% evasion or avoidance at level 60 without other runes being added, which is like, that's going to end up being reined in. But like rogue tanks on single target bosses that are melee bosses, it's just like they're just not taking any damage.
Warlock tanks aren't going to be that good at AoE stuff though. They don't have anything to help. They have a shadow cleave that does like no damage. It doesn't cause threat, and their taunt is just a single target. So we have no way to pull. If you AoE and pull threat, I can't get it back. I got one taunt every 10 seconds. Besides a 10-minute but that's it. It's going to be made, I think, for single target tanking.
Every single global you can Searing Pain though.
Yeah, but spread Searing Pain on 5 people. The most you can do is like.
Well, not 5.
Well, say but you're in a dungeon. So say you're in a dungeon and you're pulling 3 to 4 or 5 mobs. You're not going to be able to. It's going to be rough trying to hold that aggro with people unless people are not pumping. I don't think the Warlock tanks were made. They will be able to do dungeons, but in a raid, I don't think they were made to sit there and hold 4 or 5 mobs with AoE threat. It's more of a single target thing. Yeah, that's until later. I think it's a market for later for like a Hellfire rune or something with emo aura. You notice there's no emo aura in the game, so like something like that. That's the big fire thing from Lich King. Yeah. The big aura. That's what they're known for in Lich King is the big aura. I think that'll come later, but we're not that great at AoE threat right now.
Really?
So you're saying Shadow Cleave doesn't do
it doesn't do that good. It does like your normal threat. It doesn't. It's not like a Searing Pain. It's Shadow Cleave is just Shadow Bolt turned into a melee. So the most that you can do with it is like take Everlasting Affliction rune, and then you can have corruptions up on people, and Shadow Cleave that refresh the corruptions. So you can have corruptions rolling on them. But if you do that, you can't take Lake of Fire, and you need Lake of Fire because that's boosting your fire damage. So in order for you to keep threat, you have to run in or charge on one. You taunt whenever you need it with 10-second taunt, and you're just hoping nobody pulls off one Searing Pain, and you're tab Searing Pain, and you're mousing over however you're doing it. So you would just use any of the other tanks to be able to do trash. Like there's other tanks that'll be better at AoE tanking than a Warlock would be.
Right.
Yeah, but each one of those hits with your cleave is 100% extra threat on a normal Shadow Bolt, right?
No, the cleave is not extra threat. The cleave is just normal.
Metamorphosis gives you 100%.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the Metamorphosis one. Yeah, but it's really not that. The cleave itself, people were already pulling from that at the beta when we were doing it when I was cleaving.
Yeah, but you're always gonna pull right away. Like if you're DPSing right away, right? Like you're always no tank. Literally no tank can, I mean, maybe the Shaman one that has the frontal cone, but no tank can hold aggro right away in Classic. That's like literally like the essence. You're describing an essence of tanking in Classic. That's like perfect.
Yeah, that's why I said people are just going to have to not DPS even more. I feel like I don't think Warlock's going to be the best AoE tanks. I think you just use another tank that could do it better.
But you can consistently build that threat very quickly, right? So like you could run in and you have the Searing Pains for any of the targets that you're low on threat on, but you're consistently in every global able to hit 3 targets with Shadow Cleave?
It's not every global. There's a cooldown on it. Yeah, it's a cooldown on it. There's a cooldown on Cleave. There's a cooldown on everything besides Searing Pain you can spam. But you'd have to tab or mouse over for Searing Pain. So you could run in.
What's the cooldown on your new?
It was like 6 seconds. And then your taunt is 10 seconds. So you can't Shadow Cleave that much. That's the problem.
Easy. Shadow Cleave, and then you just start tabbing Searing Paining.
Yeah, but imagine the threat on that. People are going to still rip off that unless you're telling people, you know how hard it is in a raid to be like, hey, stop DPS for a whole 5 seconds, let me get it. You know how it is. And these are level 25 raids where everyone's going to be overpowered with runes.
Yeah, but you take no damage. You could rip the threat on that. But like you'll have a targeted in raids, right? Okay, just bear with me. Let's say we're in a level 60 raid with no new runes other than what we have right now. Your Warlock tank would go and pick up like 6 mobs or something over in this corner, and he would build threat while your warrior tank or whatever grabs 1 mob right here. Everyone kills the skull as you usually do, and then you start AoEing down everything, right? Because every class seems to get some sort of AoE. Also, by that time, everyone's going to have most likely a lot stronger AoE and AoE threat. But like, it's very reminiscent of like That's a really that's something that everyone's missing. Even paladins with consecrate. Consecrate was so slow for building threat. Paladins were obviously literally like not an actual tank in classic, and if you ran one, they could not generate threat at all. But now they get a ton more threat from everything with their new with their hand seal of reckoning rune, and that giving you 80% more threat gen from Righteous Fury being up. It's like
I'm saying you just use one of those tanks or a feral or something over the warlock tank, right?
Yeah.
When you,
I'm
what I'm
surprised
saying,
by that,
I'm not
though.
saying that you can't tank. I know what I'm talking about warlocks. I'm not saying you can't tank AOE. I'm just saying there's literally a couple other tanks that could, even the shamans could AOE tank better than the warlock can. There's this other thing. You could just let the warlock do AOE DPS and have something else tank those mobs. Because AOE DPS from warlock is gonna be out of this fucking world. In comparison to probably almost every fucking class besides I think mages are still gonna slap. Because the Rain of Fire Hellfire combination with Incinerate is going to be, it's absolutely crazy. You don't even use Lake of Fire. You use it just to put the tick down, and then you run in Hellfire with Incinerate opening first. It's going to be absolutely nut hole AoE damage. So you would have the Feral, the Paladin, like you said, or even the Shaman take do AoE while your Warlock just absolutely slaps DPS. I mean, AoE DPS. In my opinion, that's what I think. That's what I would like to do. Because it's going to be crazy damage with AoE on a Warlock.
Yeah, that completely makes sense to me. I'm just I haven't played like you guys did, but I thought for sure after seeing like the Shadow Cleave ability and the 100% threat on meta, I was like, oh wow, Locks are gonna be able to tank trash pretty easily. But I guess they are. I guess what you're saying is there's better.
I'm just saying
we're gonna find. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not gonna be able to. I'm just saying there's better tanks for it.
Yeah, Shaman
and Peril and Paladin. You just said right. Paladins are gonna be. You don't think Paladins will be able to tank trash? Really well.
Paladin, your threat build on trash is a lot like every other pull would be great, or if you pull really big, right? But like if you look at BFD, the pulls were like 2 to 5 mobs each pull. So eventually, yes, but I mean it doesn't really matter. You'll usually probably run one main tank and one like cleave tank in most of these raids. And in all honesty, you could run with any of the tank combinations at level 25. The raids like aren't punishing, but like we don't really know. It's just like literally if you're looking at like the warlock stuff, like you could build around that so well for some of the higher level things. At 25, everything is relatively very easy. It's just dodge mechanics. There's finally mechanics, which is exciting to me at level 25 because instead of like I mentioned earlier is like you would have literally one button to do and then the boss just dies, right? Like if we did any dungeons, you don't even know what bosses do in dungeons usually, right?
Until hardcore came around, then you're like, you know what, let's kind of find out. Even in hardcore in the dungeons, actually, yeah, you're still just kind of like just plowing through it without worried about mechanics.
Yeah, even in hardcore raids, and like I know the mechanics of most mobs in raids, like most, because there's like one thing that a mob could do to kill you, and if you didn't do hardcore, like you didn't care about that much. But in speed runs, like that one thing was something to be worried about, and you would always have to be cautious because losing your world buffs was crazy. But we're getting world buffs back, so that's
How do you like? Good topic. How do you like the world buff at the end of the BFD? You want to go over that?
Yeah.
You remember what it's called? I can look it up real quick.
Something of Black Fathom. I don't actually.
Blessing of Black Fathom. No, that's the first one. That's the. Oh, I'm under Wrath. I'm stupid.
But the cool thing from this one, it gives you like 20% movement speed, which is wild. That is gonna be. I think you're not gonna be able to get it past level 25 or like, because there was a mention. Tim Jones, when we were playing, mentioned that you might be able to get like a world buff from BFD and hold it for your level 60 raids. I don't know if that's going to be possible, at least the movement speed from it, because the movement speed is like that's stronger than that's like a swiftness of Zanzit. Like 20% movement speed is like
huge.
That's big.
Crazy, yeah, for speed runs and stuff. It'll help you when leveling, and it'll be really nice if you were like right as the level 40 bracket is about to be launched. You definitely are gonna want to get this world buff and like log your character off with like a bunch of quests ready to turn in or something, you know. And then you just move fast.
I can't remember the buff name.
I'm trying to find it. I can't
remember the buff name. Let me know if you find it. Thank you, Black. Boon of the Black Fathom.
Boon of Black Fathom,
Christ,
yep.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
it is.
2% crit for everything, 20 attack power, and 20% movement speed. And then there's another buff in Ashenvale, the Ashenvale Rallying Cry, that gives you 5% damage for 2 hours. That is half as strong as Darkmoon Fair, like, which was the strongest buff in like the game, right? Like you would always, that was the one you were always excited for, was the Darkmoon Fair buff. So 20% movement speed, 2% crit, 20 attack power, really nice. And then I mean, I guess you're missing out on getting any sort of spell power there, right?
Yeah, but the crit is big since, well, I hated the world buffs as a warlock because they didn't really help you much, but now like all of our stuff is going to be focused around crit with all of our spells. So I'm a little more excited for this one, yeah. And the movement speed, like you said, is really nice. But yeah, I feel like world buffs kind of are always more towards melee. It's bigger for melee.
Yeah.
But I do like the crit.
Concern anymore, right? Like I'm pretty sure that it's like very conscious right now. They're looking at like even balancing the hybrid specs, right? Like figuring out ways that things will work for both specs. I think something that is going to be a weird balancing act is like if you're a hybrid spec, say you're like a Paladin right now as you're watching S-Fan in the background. His judgments, I'm not 100% sure on this. Someone can correct me. I believe judgments are technically spells. So like you need spell hit for that. So will they figure out a way of balancing hit to have it be reacting to both of those? Shamans, enhanced shamans in particular, especially are going to have the same issue. Warriors with taunt. I mean, taunt's always been a spell, and that means you need a ton of threat or a ton of spell hit to make sure it hits. So if there's ever bosses that, like especially in hardcore, where a taunt swap was necessary, you would literally have to go into ZG and farm the fishing boss and get the trinket that made it so your spell hit goes up when you're using it, right? And to make sure that you didn't miss a taunt. So I think there's going to be a balancing act. I think that's like a prediction of the whim of my head, but like I think there needs to be a balancing act, or else there's going to feel really bad for some of these hybrid specs, right? So I think world buffs will also translate into them being conscious of it actually buffing all of the classes instead of it being like basically useless. Right, very soon on the next pull, S-Fan literally hits for like 900 damage in one weapon swing.
I think those sharpening stones and the mana oil they put in there that gives 2% hit in BFD was the most brilliant thing they could have ever done. I was so happy when I said that. I was so happy because I don't know how melee hit is, but casters are absolutely screwed. And
yeah, at
now,
this level,
dude, are you kidding me? It's so big.
Like watching this S-Fan DPS right now is just, I mean, looking at the damage meter is just I can't see how this isn't going to get nerfed.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I feel like we don't know that everybody else DPS wise in there was doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, right? We don't know. We don't know if everybody in there is like pressing their right buttons, right? And he could just be pressing the right buttons.
Okay, so
maybe
Artemis,
I'm just speculating.
Literally, obviously, has been able to play this because works at Blizzard. Agrin is like kind of healing. So if you go to like some of the other polls, Agrin is usually number 2 on the DPS meters. He's healing as a paladin. He's a paladin that's doing some DPS and healing, and still is usually number 2 below S-Fan, and then it's usually me or Artemis, who's the hunter. It's good. Red Paladins are really, really good. Like the seal, they have consistent cleave with Seal of Martyrdom, where it's literally permanently consistent cleave that just hits all the time, and it procs off of your Crusader Strike right now. So you get like 5.5 hits per 10 seconds if you had a 3.3 speed weapon. I do all of this like calculation. I did it all yesterday. But like all of those hits get basically 90% damage added to them for 3 targets with the cleave. That's so strong. That's so good.
It looks like he's pressing like 2 buttons too. Like that's it.
Yeah, and it's just very consistent. Well, he's going to be seal like weaving too, and for single target he should have swapped seal twisting. Sorry, and for single target he's going to swap. You're going to end up swapping runes also, anyways. So like that's going to be a thing as well. Like the meta is going to be switching your runes within the raid for trash and for bosses for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I figured. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just on like some kind of paladin hype train right now. I don't know why, but
no, you're right. You're right because of the like if you crunch the numbers and if you it is so strong right now.
Yeah. And I'm usually a Warlock fanboy all the way. Don't get me wrong. I probably still will play Lock first, but Pally will be my second.
Well, talk to me, Trader.
Second 25.
Yeah, I
Sarthe,
think
what are you? What are you maining? What are you gonna do? What's your plan?
I'm gonna go Hunter first, and then Rogue, and then probably Ret Paladin if they don't change things. The thing that is really, really good for Hunter is they're showing a lot of support for some sort of like melee stuff, which means that melee weaving will be a thing. So much so that they're even talking about obviously having a full melee Hunter build. And if that's the thing, you might even end up going with like melee or range weaving, where most of the time you're doing melee attacks, but you would move out for a second to do a shot and then move back in. So like
looking to be good.
I think that I think that's going to be the idea. There means that there's so much skill that's going to go into the play style for hunters, and so the range of the really good hunters and the less great hunters is going to be huge. But I think hunters are in a place right now. I think hunters, if you were to like, I could literally right now, like the boss damage, it's like mages if they don't get nerfed, paladins, and then hunters. They're just like so strong. And those are like, those classes are so like, every class is way stronger than it used to be, but those classes are so much stronger that they're like standing above the rest a little bit. And I think that it's going to be really fun. I think just there's
I
so many
think
things you
Hunter's
can do
looking
with it.
really good. Mage is not going to be. They're going to be all right, but even Mage Cord, we're over stressing because mana issues and our talent that we can go. I don't think Mages will be fire. But I think Hunters and Ret Paladins are definitely up there. Warlocks will be up there, single target.
How do you guys feel about Shadow Priest?
I love Shadow Priest. I'm playing one. It's one of my mains for a long time, and I think that what they got looks really cool, but they're going to have severe mana issues still, and they didn't get anything really to help them on single target. They got Mind Seer. They got some stuff that's going to help them in trash packs, but they didn't get a lot of things to help them with single target, and I feel that they're still going to be more of a support role, and they're like forced to take the homunculus or however you say it.
Yep.
So they're still going to they're still going to take that role. They really need like red alert. Priests in general need like red alert mana help. Because they got a bunch of cool shit, prayer mending for the healing side, prayer mending, prayer healing, circle healing, but that's like 45% of their base mana, 69% of their base mana, 35% of their base mana. And so I think priests are in very, very big trouble with healing, right?
But
so
I sent
with
you something
mana in general.
in the Discord. Look at this. If the big caveat for mages is if they have mana issues, right? But if they don't and they can play arcane, pull that up. That is 10% hit for arcane spells. This talent wasn't really something you ever thought about because you never cared about using arcane spells before, right? 10% raw right away for one talent point for 2% hit. Whoa, that's crazy, right? And that's like busted crazy. That is so.
It looks good, but I'm telling you that it's still a worry that they're not going to be pumping as hard because with mana is a big issue. You got to remember that.
Exactly.
And so Arcane Blast makes it good, but you're not. It's different Arcane Blast and Lich King. It's not the same one because in Arcane Blast and Lich King you can spam Arcane Blast, right? Or TBC even. This Arcane Blast, it's every other arcane spell is buffed, not arcane. So your Arcane Blast isn't even buffed. So you get I got to fix your camera. Sorry. You get the mana penalty from using Arcane Blast, and you know how in TBC and Lich King you just beat that 4 stack and your Arcane Blast is just fucking chunking and chunking and chunking.
Yep.
It's not boosting the damage of your Arcane Blast. You're only boosting damage to other things. So you would I think it's mainly for the healing part of it, or you can like AM it or something like that. But that's where the worry for the mana comes from. It's gonna depend because level 25 you don't have a lot of intellect. The mana there was like even in the shitty gear they gave us it was like 1300 int pool. You know what I mean, mana pool. So that's the worry. Fire is the exciting part, but that's also a worry with mana.
The big thing, exactly. The big caveat is going to be mana for Mage. Paladin and Hunter don't necessarily have nearly the same issue with that. So especially Paladin. Paladin with Crusader Strike is a 4-second cooldown. 2% of your mana is returned on every one of those. Paladins never go Even healing Paladins are using that. Literally, Trill was using that as a holy Paladin, and he never went on like very long fights. It is going to be.
He's using Crusader Strike, you're saying?
Yep, as a holy paladin, and
he was loving it.
Yeah, he was like, he literally was like, and Trill is like the best
Mr. World of Warcraft.
Yeah, Mr. World of Warcraft. He's like the most acclaimed World of Warcraft player there is, like in the world, right? And he literally was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely cracked. Just that one ability, Crusader Strike. So like just thinking about that Seal of Martyrdom being as overpowered as it is, and then being able to swap between that and Divine Storm, those two things make Paladins in like their own little league. And then there's some runes, like I feel like there's, like I mentioned earlier, but there's some runes, specifically hunters have the sniper training rune that gives them 30% crit, just raw 30% crit on all of your shots, especially if you're not going to run explosive shot, which you wouldn't, because then you can't use aim shot. Like, not at this level you wouldn't, at least, right? And you can't even go for like a melee build, anything in survival. The only points you would go into there would be to boost your Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite, but we're only level 25. You're going to have a very, very limited amount of your abilities. You have 16 talent points. You don't even have most of your cooldowns or most of your abilities. So having some things that give you just like a raw 30% crit, that's really strong. And you pair that with having like something that gives you a raw 25% damage, and you're like, whoa.
So are there a lot of basically a lot of instances in this raid where you will be able to just be standing still the whole time?
We don't know.
Hunter?
We don't know. We've only just done 3 bosses.
So far, there's a lot of times. So the big thing is it lasts for 6 seconds, right? So if you stand still, it'll last for 6 seconds. It'll probably like be like 2 seconds of standing still. So this brings into like the question of, there's a lot of times when you want to position well. This boss in particular has like a knockback with those orbs, but you don't need to move very often. The first boss also has a knockback that you do need to move every now and then. RIP S-Van there. And the third boss, the only time you need to move, is when he puts like a trap on the ground. So there's, no matter what in Classic, if you think about Classic raids currently, there's a lot of times where you do just stand there. And if you're a hunter right now in Classic raids, your rotation is so simple, especially if you're not melee weaving. Your rotation is literally like, you have an auto shot, and then you do an aim shot for 3 seconds, and then you do an auto shot, and then you've got multi-shot, and then you just wait for aim shot. Like, technically you Serpent Sting in there now because of Season of Mastery and the debuff limit. That was S-Van just dies again here. But like, now we have a lot more things going on in the rotation, and even then there's a lot of times where you can pause yourself and be tracking that, and right as you get the buff for 6 seconds, then you can move maybe for the next 4 seconds, and then pause for 2 seconds to know that you won't have to move again to get your next buff up. So yes, absolutely.
All by still having to pull everything, because in Classic, all you guys did is pull shit. You're worthless, pretty much.
Yeah.
And now you guys are gonna slap.
Everyone was worthless.
I mean, not warriors and rogues, right?
Even, dude, I literally peaked out #1 rogue world, and I was still like 13th behind warriors, and that was like in the US I was 13th, not even in world like 13th, right? That was just in the US I was still 13th behind warriors. Rogues were the suboptimal class, and I just loved it because I love rogue, right? Like, I just wanted to make it work, and I did. But like, realistically, in an optimal speedrun or an optimal raid, you would only bring 1 rogue, and he's exposed armoring, right? So like, it didn't matter.
Helping.
The only class that was good, is warrior back in Classic. Now every class is good, which is so much more fun.
Yeah, but warrior, I'm not gonna say it's bad, but didn't get anything that will like change how it's played fundamentally, like these other classes. You know what I mean? That's my biggest gripe. It's because, so back in 2019 Classic, I mained Fury Warrior, and it was so much fun, to be honest. But I would have done that this time around in Season of Discovery, but I feel like every class got such like cool class defining runes and like most of them. And Warrior got like Warbringer, you know, Furious Thunder, like, yeah, you can thunderclap in every stance now and stuff, but like they got nothing that's going to change how it's played, at least at this level, right? It's still going to feel almost like the exact same Warrior that you're used to.
My spicy take is that Warriors are going to be ass at 25, Yeah, I've been saying that forever. Hey, yeah, I mean, no. Well, I'm glad I'm surprised that, because you and I don't agree on shit. So I'm surprised that we all agreed on that, because everybody's coped out of their minds and they're like, it's gonna be the best. I think it's gonna be still up there on this end at 60, but at 25.
The way Warrior scales
in Classic
is so weak early on, right? You're going to be rage starved if you're not tanking. You don't have things like flurry, which is like so ridiculous. It's so much. It's attack speed consistently. You're consistently critting anyways. Once you get stronger, you're always having infinite rage, so you can use abilities all the time. Like right now, at least Alliance are getting Wind Fury, but early on, the biggest caveat, and I think Fight Club is going to end up being like a ton of people complaining, but also a ton of people realizing how good it's gonna be. Is the big difference is that we don't have a large amount of the warrior toolkit. A large amount of the warrior power scaling is power scaling. So like if nothing even happens, nothing else changes, warriors still at this rate would probably be like, I mean, they don't really have the cleave that some of the other classes are getting, like some real AoE, but warriors would be like still potentially like the strongest. Like the power scaling is just ridiculous. Opening up, getting Wind Fury on Alliance, and then adding a couple more buttons you can do that will increase your damage. Or like there's one of them that gives you like, let me go and grab it, but one of the runes gives you damage for being higher on rage, right? And being above 80 rage, and that's going to be a thing you'll always have above 80 rage, basically almost permanently at level 60. So yeah, I think warriors are in this spot right now at 25 where they feel really like behind and left out, because you didn't get a lot to change your class to feel different. Same, rogues don't get a lot to change your class and feel different realistically, but consumed by rage, every time you enrage you get 25% melee damage for 12 seconds. That's ridiculous. 25% damage on that. That's crazy, right? That's
and
just
you
like
stack that with flagellation too.
Yeah,
and then
25 more percent. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that in itself busted. And then you generate 25% more rage for all damage you do with is one of the bottom ones, but I wouldn't even go with that. I would go with like, while dual wielding, your physical damage and movement speed are increased by 10%. Yep. There you go. That's 60% damage. Imagine a classic warrior with 60% extra damage.
Yeah, I think towards later phases, towards the end, they're going to be pretty strong.
Yeah, they're going to be the worst damage at level 25. I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they're literally going to be bottom, very bottom. Shadow Priest right above them. Worst two in the in the whole thing. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how Shaman DPS is, so I can't speak on that. But yeah, Shaman DPS. I mean Warrior and then Priest, Shadow Priest. Worst two. Yeah. I don't know how Ferals are either. So that's why I didn't
Warrior's
add them.
Be down there. Just because, like you guys were saying before, that like in regular 2019 Classic, like Warrior was the only class you did have buttons to press, and now every class has buttons to press for the most part, right?
And some just have crazy ass buttons to press.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think really
towards higher levels, they're going to scale pretty crazy.
I guess it also depends on how long the fights are too. Like, I don't know how long these fights are. If it's anything that what we can dictate from what we tested. Granted, when we tested, we had doo-doo gear. It was not even remotely close to what we would call Prebus or whatever, but
pretty decent.
No, it was ass. It wasn't even remotely close to what we had. But like our previous list we make off 60s is like twice as much stamina, like I don't know, like 80% more mana, stuff like that. You ever look at the gear, it was just like int gear. Well, for me it was. I guess I was a caster, you were the melee. So from the caster point of view, it was ass. Like warlocks aren't gonna stack int and fucking spirit, right? Mages aren't gonna stack int and stam, so like it just wasn't modified the right way. But it's not a big deal, it was just for testing, and I'm glad it was, because you don't want to blow through that, right? But like the shorter the fights are, some classes will just get better or worse, depending on how long it is, right? Mage is a very big one on that. If it's
the lengths of the fights felt like they felt like a raid boss. They felt like they tuned it for the lengths of the fights to be like a raid boss length, which will obviously get shorter as we get all of the raid loot itself as well. But even then, like, it doesn't even, from looking at the raid loot, it's not like it's ridiculously stronger than open world loot, at least so far, right?
And that's the big thing. I'm glad you said that. It felt, the bosses felt like a raid boss. It did not feel like a harder boss, a harder dungeon boss, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't just feel like we just fought a dungeon boss that was buffed a little bit. It actually felt like a raid encounter, which is cool.
Yeah.
And awesome. It was all new mechanics. It was nice to figure it out. That was important. I was like, oh, it's just going to be a buff BFD with more bosses, And we couldn't even see 4 of the bosses. There's 7 total. We only saw 3. Like they showed us, which is nice. But
one group found a way to glitch out and summon themselves back in and progress through to other bosses, I believe.
Really?
One group in a guild that's going to be going for world first. Apparently, I think found a way to fight picks of the bosses. So shame on you, that group that's not going to share any information.
Challenge accepted. I think we'll shit on that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That group is going to beat your group.
No, I'm team Omp till death. Don't sleep. Well, we got a full 10-man raid with like 25 mob taggers each to get to 25, and then go in the raid. You should know not to underestimate Ompi's fucking sweatness. Until someone dethrones, I'm never gonna not believe in him. Fearless leader, God Almighty, in my opinion.
You know, I was having this conversation yesterday. The idea that Pompey wouldn't even agree that any of the groups he's put together would stand a chance against a sweaty EU guild.
That doesn't matter. Why do you always fucking bring EU in this? No one gives a shit about the EU guilds. You always bring that in there. No one. That's not what this is about. That wasn't an EU guild at BlizzCon doing what you're saying right now either.
No,
so this is literally out of the whole fucking conversation of it. We don't know if it was only sweaty NA because we have a lot. There's always sweaty NAs. What do you mean? How do you know if there's no sweaty NAs? We haven't even launched the fucking game yet, Sarthe.
Because there's only one sweaty NA in Classic.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is the game's not out yet, so you don't know what's sweaty yet. Nobody knows. You don't even know where to get a fuck. You don't even know where to get one fucking rune yet. We don't know anything. Nobody knows anything, bro. Married couple arguments. Yeah, we are married couple arguments. These are best friend arguments. You should see us in person. It's even worse. It's hilarious.
This is great.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. All I'm saying is that group is going to have a massive advantage. But I do know that there is going to be a group of some of the best players coming together, as well as world first retail players playing, going for it. So it'll be a very fun and interesting thing.
Do you think there's going to be a boss where people are just stuck on for a little bit?
Level 25.
It's cringe to me to even hear the word world first in a BFD and speedrunning in BFD. I don't ever want to hear those words. But it's going to happen regardless. You know it's going to happen. When I saw the Warcraft log person post and say Warcraft logs is going to support BFD, I actually cringed inside. It was crazy. It was fucking gross.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like what is there to do and what's there to be excited about once you're playing, right? Like it's all planning for, well, I think all of the brackets are gonna have their own, like it's like this own little ecosystem, right? It's finding out what little events you can care about and have fun doing, like the beta, where it's like, can level 25s go and kill like Onyxia or something? You're going to try and do something crazy, right? And that's where a lot of the fun and community aspect happens in Classic, when you're capped out at this limitation of level to see where you can go with it. And one of those limitations or like one of those avenues will be going for things quickly. It doesn't really matter because the raid I don't think at level 25 we're gonna have anything that's like a challenging boss encounter by far, but eventually I think we do get some of the new raids are going to be tuned really hard, and I think that's going to be pretty cool, actually.
I don't think no one's going to give a fuck about PvE at level 25, and it's going to be all PvP. That's all most of the majority of the world I think is going to care about. These tournaments coming up that you know about, and then some other shit, just of getting the runes and the duels and the Ashen Veil and the BGs. That's all. I don't hear. All besides, we're PvE Andes, so we like the raid, but a majority of everybody from my chat, anyone's chat, all they're talking about is the PvP.
Yep.
Like the BFD is cool and everything, but it looks like this. We're gonna get to 25 quick. You're gonna clap out BFD whenever your guys' guild claps it out, and then it's just straight PvP zone. Whatever the hell, I still don't even understand what's going on in the Ashenville stuff yet. That's like all anybody is talking about.
Yeah, it's open world Ultimate Rally.
That's all anybody is talking about, even as a PvE Andy. Yeah, it's like it's a level 25 10-man BFD. It's cool once. You're gonna go through that once, maybe twice, and be like, all right, well, I'm over this. You know what I mean?
Well, no, you're just going to be able to level up more characters to be able to then PvP.
Yes, it's exactly what I tell people too. Like if people are like, oh, I'm going to get, like people, you've seen it too. I'm sure both of you guys have people talking shit in comments like, oh, it's just lame. 25. What are you going to do? Go again with another character. But if you're one of those people who just, if you say you play, a rogue and you're just like, I only want to play a rogue. I don't want to do nothing else. And I PvE, then you might be a little bored, but that's when you have to
it's gonna be phase one,
take a chance to play a new class, because a lot of these classes change drastically. A Warlock is nothing remotely close to what it is in Classic now. Shadow Priest is nothing close to what it is in Classic now. There's some classes that change like drastically from what you're used to seeing. So now's the time to play something new if you want to. Yeah, Hunter looks like it's completely different too. Yeah, me too. It's not everything, because I don't give a fuck about like warriors.
I don't like priests very much. That's why I won't play. But
I don't like warriors and paladins and shamans. No offense for all those that play them, but I just They've just always been like the most boring 3 to me for some reason, which is ironic because Warriors, I'm definitely not boring
Really?
in Classic.
Warrior is boring?
I don't know. I said it's not. No, it's not boring. I don't know why I said that, because that's what I said. It's ironic because Warrior's not boring to play. I just don't want to.
Oh, okay,
it's not my cup of tea. Melee, I'm a caster Andy. I'm not a. I play Warrior a little bit in Lich King, got over it real quick. I just don't care about melee. I'm just a big pumper caster. I like to even healing. I like healing too. I've tried tanking. I'm just not a big tanking fan.
What do you guys think are going to be the strongest classes in PvP?
Warlock.
I would say Warlock.
Rogues.
Yeah.
Yep. I honestly, I don't think anybody can talk me out of this. I don't think anything can fuck with them. I think anything with the meta Warlock, if you have that meta rune, it's going to be hard. I think mages can fuck with Warlocks because we don't have Fell Hunter, so we don't have Spell Lock. We also don't have Charm. We have Succubus, but we don't have Charm yet. That's at 26. We're talking about 25, not level 40, by the way. 25, it's going to be very hard for anybody to stop in a full Immolate, Corruption, Agony, 500% armor, and I'm spamming free casting Searing Pains on you the whole time.
Yeah.
With
And
the
you take
Voidwalker
Master Channeler
sacrifice.
too.
Yeah, with the free dot on there, with the Voidwalker sacrifice, you have enough points for Feldom too if you really wanted to get sweaty. I cannot, not just fucking Warlock cope, I cannot see a lot of people fucking with that. Melee, that's 500% armor, you already know, I don't need to tell you that, but like, I think a mage is the closest thing to it. Maybe Shadow Priest, I'm not sure, because Shadow Priest, we don't have our Fell Hunter, and that's like a big, I can't Spell Lock, I can't get the sheep off me, I can't purge you, I can't do anything without my Fell Hunter, and that's the kryptonite of a mage. I don't have any of that, so it's just a battle between, can I put 4 dots up and Searing Pain spam you? What are you going to counterspell? Are you going to counterspell my fear? Or are you going to blanket my fire? Like, you have those two hot choices, and it's a battle for 24 seconds to see who wins the fight. I think Hunter's phenomenal in PvP. I think that's like right up there too. I actually, now that I just said the word Hunter out loud, I would be worried about a Hunter as a Warlock. I'm just kind of not, because of the armor, and I have 4 dots on you, and I'm spamming instant cast Searing Pains. Like, that's going to be, you know what I mean? You don't have Faint Death. There's nothing that can really help that. Rogues don't have their double vanish. They got their vanish, but they don't have Kidney Shot. They don't, like, it's just, I don't know. I think it's going to be really, really hard, but
you kind of had Kidney Shot.
I don't know. Kidney Shot's not at 25.
That's level 26, but you have other things.
Yeah, true, but the kidneys, yeah, you're right.
That if you take
The Searing Pain is melee range? No, the Searing Pain is not melee range. Shadow Cleave is melee range.
Between the Eyes is Kidney Shot, and it's ranged.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So rogues actually get some really crazy really crazy runes for PvP. The big thing for Warlock PvP against like a melee is that 500% armor. That's like really strong. That's a lot of armor. It's going to reduce a lot of your damage. Fire Destro is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be one of the best DPS in the game, and in PvP it's going to be really good because it's just instant tap. If you land and incinerate, and like, well, you don't have conflag yet, but that's way down there. Don't talk about that. But if you can land and your immolate, your incinerate, 25 damage, your lick of fires on them, and you're fucking slapping them, the problem is you don't have charm. You have no way to keep them there in that spot. You need to be able to root them in a spot, or unless you did it fast enough in a fear, but you're not going to be able to do that. So that's going to be, so I think it's just going to be a meta Warlock. I think fire will be cool, but it's until you can get something like a charm, or unless there's like a magic dust, something sleepy wise to do something. I don't know how the fires are going to be great because there's so much pushback. So a melee, you're just going to have meta. Yeah, you would take Master Channeler and Incinerate meta, exactly. Yeah, but you wouldn't do that if you're a Destro. You would take Lake, so you can sit in the 40% fire with Incinerate to 25%, and then you're spamming. It's gonna be fat. I think so. My answer is Hunter and Warlock. I don't know which of the two. I think in that duel, I feel like a Warlock would win, but that could just be me because I'm a Warlock. But I think those are going to be the best 2 DPS. I mean, the best 2 PvPers. Hammer Dance, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also, again, not just because I'm a little biased towards Warlock, but I do think Warlock with meta, you do have a charge too, but I'm just reading
out of combat.
That's what I was just looking at. I
was not going to get a lot of value.
Yep.
Out of combat with only a 1 second stun too.
Yeah. I mean, to me, if we put up Hunter and Locke together, I really do think it would be kind of who gets the jump on who first if it's open world PvP. I think if Locke can open on the Hunter with a charge without the Hunter opening first, I think it's a wrap right there. I don't think anything else happens. But again, like I said earlier to you guys, I think Red Pallies are going to slap in PvP.
Yeah, I forgot about Paladins. I am a little worried about Paladins.
You got Freedom, right? I'm pretty sure they have
bubbles.
Yep, they have a rune. What's it called? Inspiration Exemplar. Like if you wanted to take that, that's just a permanent dispel fear and sleep. Like if you're fighting a lock, like just put that on.
Isn't that randomly?
We can't sleep you.
Doesn't that randomly trigger? Am I? Let me go.
Your inspiring presence periodically dispels fear and sleep effects.
Yeah, periodically. I'm curious what the actual, like, how often it happens. If it happens like all the time, that's crazy,
Yeah,
right?
that would be nuts, right? Or you could take a kick, obviously, or you take, if you're fighting a meta lock, you take Exorcist, and you're 100% critting.
Yep.
Every single time with that. I don't know. If I had to pick 3 classes, it would probably be.
You get Hajj early, don't
Pally.
you? As a Paladin too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's gonna be hard to get a fear
Hajj.
off, and you can bubble out of it, and we don't have death
can
coil
bubble
stuff
out of
like
it.
that. Yeah. Good point. So put Paladin up there. I'm kind of worried about Paladin then as Warlock. I think you say it.
I mean, and the bigger thing too. I mean, you have freedom. Like you can't be slowed. You can't. You can just run it.
Well, we don't slow. The slow that doesn't matter because Warlocks aren't slowing shit down. But I am worried about that because I didn't think about like Exorcist and stuff. Damn, Paladins are. And the thing is about everybody knows Paladins are really good at they're pretty good at those little dual tournaments that you've seen happen in Classic for like the level 20s and the 30s. Paladins have been very good at that already.
Yeah,
they get so much early. Yeah.
I don't know enough about Shaman PvP to like talk on their behalf.
I'm not worried about Shamans ever.
Yeah, I would say Hunter, Pally, Locke are going to be the strongest in my opinion.
Oh well, I mean, I'm not worried about Shaman as a Warlock at least. Because their time with totems can't really do much.
Does Shaman have
totem stumping?
Purge yet? I don't know. I can look at.
I don't think so.
They get it level 32.
Requires level 12. It's level 32.
Oh, I see. No, yeah, the removing one is level. I looked at rank 2. Sorry, yeah. So removing one is level 12. Yeah.
One thing. I mean, well, it doesn't matter because it'd be like more against like a warlock against like a shadow priest. They could just like spam dispel all of the dots you put on them. The only one that wouldn't get dispelled would be your curse, right? So shadow priest will be an interesting one to see if it can counter.
And we don't have Fell Hunter for the priest too. That's what I said earlier. That's a rough one to have. No shadow ward.
I think there's going to be a lot more of rock, paper, scissors at level 25. A lot more rock, paper, scissors. But in open world, like when we're in Ashenvale, there's going to be like one thing that's going to be really strong is, well, whoever can hit really hard out of nowhere from range is going to be like crazy, or whoever can like kill you really fast. Mainly because when you're in a battleground, right, a lot of times, unless it's an organized group, a lot of times like that ranged pump damage is one of the things that just like literally destroys everyone. And that's why I think Hunter is going to be really fun, because you could just like shadow meld for a second, someone's capping a point or something, and then you just aim shot them with 30% crit, hit them right afterwards with a multi-shot that's also got 30% crit and 25% extra damage. You'll just like kill things really fast. I think
it's gonna be crazy to see like a hunter or warlock, and you don't catch them coming at you like that, and they're allowed to just free full pump fire or do what you said with hunters. That's gonna be nasty. But also don't sleep on mages too. No one's mentioning mages, but they get their ice lamp, they get their shit. They get that PvP stuff that they need, which is really fucking good for them.
Yep.
They're gonna do great. And they have a lot of their toolkit that they need. They don't have like frost armor and stuff, but ice barrier or nothing like that, or block. But they don't have block, which makes it like when you're fucking up a mage, guess what pisses you off? When they ice block. And then when you get them down again, guess what pisses you off? Cold snap, ice block. They don't have any of that. But they do have counter spell, which helps them a little bit. So they're kind of just, I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna do. You have enough points if you go into Frost to get 1 point in Shatter. That's not helping much. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like the healing side of mages will be all right, more helpful in PvP, like in a group setting, than them just slapping out.
I think little 25 Smurf rogues are going to have a good time too. You can close the gap with Shadow Strike. You just need to get a re-stealth. You have a ranged kidney shot. You have a ranged slow. Also, right? Like you literally could
slow is dope.
A ranged slow out that you could use all the time, right? It's giving you combo points and it's a 50% slow from range. Like you don't even then need to put on crippling poison because you can control when your crippling poison goes out. You don't need to go a shiv because you can literally control when your crippling goes out. Or you can go with a 40 energy backstab, which is bonkers. Yeah, that was.
Well, even like if you imagine a rogue opening up on you, my first reaction is to coil most of the time, or charm, and I don't have either of those. Rogues are going to be spicy. I think BGs are going to be an absolute blast. I'm more excited for like Warsong Gold just than I am the Ashtonville shit for some reason. I don't know why.
Warsong Gold tournaments.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be so much. I love BGs. I wish they would have put rated RBGs in a long time ago. BGs are so much fun. Like an incentive to do them would be dope. And they're always just so much fun, especially as a warlock. They're always really fun, and no matter what spec you take, and all the like, imagine being a rogue and going through there and just like nothing can get away from you now. That feeling when you get slowed as a rogue and they're just like, no, they're just out of your grasp. That's no longer existent anymore.
Yep, you literally can stop them at all. Like, and that's
crazy.
like the big pitfall of rogue, right? Is to just be permanently kited. We even saw it with the tournament, right? With the Makara tournament, all of the tournaments, it's always been either the rogue wins or they get like. It's really a chess match, right, against a rogue, especially rogue mage. It's like whoever uses all of their CDs first does win. And basically, once you run out of things, the rogue can never catch you. It's over. The rogue just can't catch you. And that's not an issue anymore. And that's like a big defining point that changes the way that rogue PvP is going to be played. I think we're going to see some crazy people like Bobka, Perplexity come back and do some like ridiculous stuff with rogue. Feral Druid, I think, is going to be a relatively strong one. Also, I think like it's interesting to see that all of the classes get a lot more, like every version of the different specs. Like I would be intrigued to see like Boomkin leveling. You have literally free mana wrath, so you'll never have to stop while leveling, right? So like balance will have a good time. Enhanced or Ellie shamans are used to one-shotting people, so like once we're higher levels, they can also just one-shot people even harder. Yeah.
I don't know how Druid is. I don't know. I don't know shit about him. I don't know how they're gonna look. I don't know how any of it works. I don't know if you guys do. I think obviously Hammer does. He did a Druid video, right? You want to touch on him?
Druid or Shaman?
Druid. We have a slot lag on the one we haven't talked about. I don't know how they're looking. I don't know if I know Resto Druid looks phenomenally. I love Resto Druid. It's one of my favorite healing. That looks dope. But in terms of the DPS, how does it?
In terms of the DPS, I mean, so you're bringing Wind Fury. You have Wind Fury. You have Mangle. You have Savage Roar, which is enormous. You know, if anyone here has played a
30% damage.
Yeah, like it's humongous. So you're gonna have a 30% damage buff constantly. You have Mangle, which is gonna buff your warrior's damage and your rogue's damage. And then Wind Fury. Yeah, the thing is the talents are kind of weak. This is what I was struggling with when I was making my guide on them. And there was a lot of like I actually got into some pretty good conversations like in the comments, like getting ideas from other people as well. But you would generally go like it's tough because if you look, I don't know if you guys have it up, but if you're looking at the feral tree, the first set of talents is kind of whack because your ferocity or feral aggression like are not going to benefit your DPS at this level at all. Like literally at all. So you're basically wasting 10 points to go down, right? You go into get to Sharpened Claws. So once you get to Sharpened Claws, that's when you could start actually getting damage out of this. But then I was having someone tell me that maybe it's better to go into like the Resto tree.
Sure, you go for 100%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. It's so that you can power shift into cat and you get 40 energy free every time you do that.
Right.
It
would be big. Yeah. So that's what I was struggling with. So that would be more DPS than going down into like to get to Sharpened Claws.
Yes. Yeah. Like you can't really get far into Sharpened Claws, right? Like
yeah, you get one or 2 points, I think it was.
Technically, I guess if you don't go Furor at all, you can get 3 points into Sharpened Claws. But like, it's just really Furor that is so good for you. So you're gonna want to go down and get that for sure. The thing is, yes, I think Feral Druid doesn't have like that. It doesn't come fully online yet. That's the thing that they're missing.
Things would be a little bit different. I feel like it would just be insane on trash, but. Yeah, so if you go Furor, you can't even get down to Blood Frenzy because that's where I was originally going with it, and then I rethought it, and I'm like, yeah, this is right. Like you would go Furor, but I don't know. There was just part of me that felt like going down into Sharpened Claws and getting a point in Blood Frenzy would be a good amount of damage, but I'm not sure on that. I haven't played a lot of classic Feral Druid.
Feral Druid, yeah. Furor is like one of your like quintessential It's like it really like power shifting is like one of the quintessential things for Feral Druid. The thing is, I think Feral Druids also resemble a little bit of like their Wrath rotation, where you have basically Slice and Dice, which is Savage Roar, giving you 30% extra damage. It is really, really strong, but like you'd have to get that up. I think that I'm not sure, and I think I'm going to be proved very differently and proved wrong. But in PvP, if you're going for like a raw feral damage build, it's like a ramp. Like ferals are a ramping spec usually. They ramp up their damage. So you add like bleeds and stuff, and you ramp up. So it's going to be interesting, but. That ramping also, I believe, might ignore armor. Someone's going to have to correct me with this, and I'll ask Grifton. But that ramping might ignore armor, which would put them strong against like the warlock situation in a PvP battle. But I don't see them as like coming out of nowhere and just like deleting people.
Yeah,
and I mean, next phase they'll come online a little bit more, because then they'll be able to get the helmet.
Yes, very much so.
So that combined with Furor, obviously, like you'll have full power shifting going on there, and
like level 40, a lot of people, that's for your final shit right there too.
Yeah,
bro,
that's the ice block, that's the soul link, that's the bottom thing for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, between getting that helmet, and if they, maybe in the next phase we'll get a swipe rune there, like. That would make me play Feral. I feel like it'd be a lot of fun, because I played it in Wrath, and I had an absolute blast with it. But I think if they get swipe and they get to 40 to be able to equip that helmet and like take full advantage of power shifting, I think that would be nutty with Savage Roar and Wind Fury. Like looking at these talents now,
it'll be so if you have that and you're just like, whenever you're out of energy, you can just shift and get 60 energy back or whatever, and you can just do it again. It's gonna be it's gonna be really, really good. So druids are gonna ramp up. Druids are in a class or in a place where I think Feral is gonna ramp up. Boomkin, I think, would be more of the play
what about Boomy? Yeah.
For PvP, also for leveling. Boomkin like literally has like one of those runes makes it so your Wrath legitimately costs 0 mana. So you can never ever go you literally just can continuously kill things. So yeah, I think it's Fury of the Storm Mage. There it is. It's like, that's crazy. So that one is really fun. And I think that also leads it to like in a 1v1 situation, you can continuously do that and then get like these instant cast heals off all the time. So it's really good for PvP. I think they're really good in like a dueling situation, and you could play between moving in and using like this like the build that you usually do, right, is like you druids are always about whittling people down and having these long prolonged fights. It's like usually the druid way of doing things. It really is. Healing touch is so much mana, yeah, but you're not spending mana on most of your other things. That's like the trade-off. But I yes, it is. So it's going to be interesting to see what druid pulls out. I think the fun of these theory crafting and putting together what the different builds could be is where like you're gonna see like Chan and Snuts come up with some crazy thing that you're just gonna be like, I didn't think about putting those together at all, and then it's gonna become the meta very quickly.
I think the fun of it is that nobody knows anything, and even Chan and Snuts gonna go in there not knowing nothing when it comes up to day 2 and day 3, because everyone's still trying to figure it out. If this is why I hope that all the runes are found, because of tournaments coming up, right? I hope that all the runes aren't found by then, so you're like, oh shit, here's Sarthe with his best hunter runes against Snuts, who was not able to find that meta rune or whatever the fuck, and not able to get it. It's like, that's the kind of stuff I like, because everyone's trying to figure out the meta, right? Or it's speculation. When the game comes out, nobody knows yet.
Yeah, if you can't,
we could be wrong, and Shaman just dominates everybody. You know what I mean? We could, for some reason, something could be broken with Shamans and just untouchable. I doubt it, but just saying.
I mean, someone was asking me about that yesterday, and it's like I don't have enough information on Shaman to give an accurate estimation of where they'll be in PvP or PvE. So like there's also going to be like these classes that like there's some people that are so good at it, and they're going to find crazy ways of doing things. I think the idea that the game isn't this solved version of a game we've been playing for 20 years is the fun. Is really the fun.
We're gonna have the most fun we've had in a long time. That's
I mean,
it's gonna be a blast.
Talk on Shaman. Did you guys know anything about Shaman Hammer? Have you done your Shaman video?
Yeah, so I was working on that this morning actually, and I was like messing around. I didn't touch much on PvP stuff.
Or PvE.
But
Fine.
PvE, I do think that Elemental is going to be a little bit better than Enhancement at this level, but I could be wrong on that. But the way that I'm looking at it, I mean, your Enhancement tree at level 25 is just absolute dog. Like it is really bad. You get like nothing good there. But if you go
5 crit,
yeah, that's literally all you get. But if you go into Elemental, I mean, you get let's spec it out right now. You get 5 points into concussion, right, which is just 5% increase to damage, and then you would take 3 points in Call of Flame, and then we can go down into Call of Thunder.
You're missing 2 points.
5, and then we're missing 1 more point. Yeah, Elemental Focus. There we go. So to me, looking at this build, 5 points concussion. I put 2 points in Elemental Warding, 3 in Call of Flame, 5, which is going to give you 6% crit on Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, which is pretty big, and then 1 point in Elemental Focus. Like, to me, this is the only way Shamans are going to do any form of, like, competitive DPS at level 25.
Yeah.
Oh, did I drop from the call or something? Oh, no.
No, you're here.
We're good.
It's on his end.
Okay. Yeah, so to me, you go Elemental if you're trying to DPS on a Shaman at 25. I could be wrong. I could be proved completely wrong, but the way that it looks, this is how it would be. And then obviously you'd take Overload for like your instant lightning bolts and Lava Burst, of course, and probably Shamanistic Rage.
Yeah.
So that you just never run out of mana.
Yeah, agreed.
But Enhancement, I think it's going to take a little bit longer for that to like kind of really come online. You're also missing a ton of hit too, so I don't think that it's going to be that great. But again, no one really knows. It's all speculation, to be honest.
Sarthe froze. Leave call and join again. Did it work, Sarthe?
He's still out on my end.
Yeah, he can leave and come back. It should work. Your Discord hates you. Well, I mean, it's been almost 2 hours. That's about. Did you have something else that you want to talk about, Sarthe, in there? Or you as well, Hammer? Because we're going to do a part 2 where we go over classes more and do a tier list, unless you wanted to do it today.
Yeah, we could save that for part 2, man.
Yeah. I did want to ask about mage healing. Obviously, well, if you didn't know, mage healing got nerfed pretty substantially, I would say. Oh, there he is. He's back. Now my face is on your face. Mage healing got nerfed, pretty substantial nerf to them, where they changed their region to, the first thing they changed is the mana cost of it, right? They made the mana cost decent more on region, and it's 43% of your mana base. It used to be 21. And then the mass region was changed from, where's it at? I remember it's 21% to 69%.
Yeah, it's just like a crazy number.
Yeah, it's like 69% of your mana for it right now too. And then they also changed how much it heals. They changed,
right?
Yeah, it's base mana, which is a big difference because, well, level 25 you won't have that much in it anyway. But yeah, it's the base mana. That's still a shit ton anyway. And then they also lessen the healing on it, that it actually heals per se. And then they actually and then they nerfed it on the temporal beacon healing. So it used to be 100% of your arcane damage is healing. Now it's only 40% of it. And then on top of that, they made it whenever you put your temporal beacon on somebody, you do 50% less fire and frost damage. You can't ice block. That's more for PvP and obviously for later. You don't even have ice block right now.
I mean, that last part of it is not, to me, that's not that big of a deal because you'd be just doing arcane damage.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is the temporal. I think the temporal beacon, but you have to remember mages will be doing a lot of damage, especially if there's AE spamming. I think that 100% to 40%, that was needed. If you're letting mages heal for 100% of the damage they're doing, that's a lot of damage, right? They're going to be doing decent damage. I don't think they're going to be topping all the time, or I don't think they're top 3 or nothing, but I think they're definitely going to be doing a lot of damage. And for them to heal 100% of that, that's kind of needed. The mana cost is an issue. I think at level 25 at least. Once you get up to 50, 60, that's a little bit different, right? Because you have a lot of it now. But it goes into the thing where the bis sets I have for mage is more like I have where on a warlock I'm sitting there using all fire damage or all shadow damage, right? Or then some tanking, right? Then I have all agi gear and agi enchants on. Versus the mage set I had to work. I'm in spirit, right? You want to go stack fire or frost or arcane plus damage, whatever you can get, but you can't because you're like, I need my spirit, I need my int.
Yep.
So that's kind of the balance you have with that. But it also depends on how short the fights are. I think mage is the most unknown in terms of everything for me right now because it's not unknown. I know what I'm talking about with it, but you don't know. We don't know how short the fights are. That's the big for them right now because that's a whole different gear set of gear you can use. I don't think the healing is going to be giga healing. I think it'd be a cool dungeon healer or something. I don't think this is going to be like, in my opinion, it's like, why would you bring a mage to a 10-man raid to heal when you could just bring a priest, a holy paladin, shaman, whatever, because the wrestle shaman's going to do great. Wrestle Druid got almost a damn near rework, it feels like. F-load, stuff like that, I think they're going to be phenomenal. So like, why would you bring the mage healer instead of just let him blast? You know what I mean?
Because they wanted to play mage healer.
Which
you can't just put them in a box.
Well, there are, but there's a lot of people who are like, they don't understand why the mage is healing lore, which is why I think they did that. But a lot of the mages are like, I want to pump. Like, I have living bomb, I have living flame, I have icy veins, I have all this other stuff that I can do. And just the arcane fans are freaking out because they get arcane blast, right? They're like, oh shit, we get arcane blast. But I think people sleep on the fact that the arcane blast is very different, whereas this is every other damage, right? You increase each time you deal damage, of the damage and healing of all other arcane spells is increased. Yeah. Instead of it being your arcane blast increased, right? So it's a 4 dump, 4 dump, 4 dump.
It's gonna be really fun to see how the meta changes. With like, mage has a lot more intricacy now, whereas if you played mage in classic, the meta for mage, literally, like no joke, in raids was to be an arcane mage that used frost bolt. Yeah, and you just sat there. Sorry, I'm used to both of these classes having one ability to use. And you just sat there and you would just like use your frost spells, but you just press one button, right? And you had one CD technically, and then you just use your CD and then makes it so that your frost spell does more, right? Yeah. So now you have a lot more of a rotation, which is cool. I think lore wise, it's interesting. I didn't even know like from lores in the books and stuff that mages were healers. I think within the
could heal. It was like they can heal. They had the ability to heal.
I think within the confines of the game, the biggest change that actually technically makes the most sense within the confines of the game was rogue tank, because rogues tanks is a thing, right? Even shaman tank, like people would force shaman tanks. So like both of those were a thing where like people were already doing them. Rogue tanking is like the safest way to do Vesuvius in hardcore, right? It's like literally like the safest way to do it. Like it can be the safest way to deal with some of the patchwork mechanics, right? So
well, Warlock tank makes sense. The reason they put meta in the game in Lich King is because it was going to be a tank, and then they changed their mind last minute and made it just a DPS. That's why there's so much armor on it.
Really?
Yeah. That's why meta was put in the game in the first place.
I didn't know that at all. Yeah.
And Mage, Warlock's tank, how many different bosses? So I think it makes perfect sense that they finally let them actually be a tank. I hope that all three of those new tanks, whether it's Shaman, Rogue, Warlock, I hope they're good. I don't want them to be like, tank a couple pieces of trash, or you get one clap, which I don't think they will, because we already know the survivability is going to be great on all of them. They all have their different toolkits to make them survive, whether you're avoidance, whether you're dodging, whether, whatever it is. So I hope they're in that. When I asked them, they said they're viable tanks, right? So
they all, that's the cool thing, is especially at level 25, literally everything's viable. Even even Mage Healer. Mage Healer was really strong before.
It would have been broken, bro.
It was really, yeah, exactly. Like this is the first time where you see them rein in things that are broken, right? And like I was mentioning, like Ret Paladin and maybe like some Hunter runes and maybe some other runes around there are like kind of broken right now. I think they reined that in, and I think that was a really smart move of them to put them in line with everything else, so that like you can bring it. It like there's no need at level 25 to choose only the best classes to bring to your 25 raid. Like it's not like a challenging raid, and then you're going through having fun with your friends, and you're at like a chill level 25, and then you go in PvP and you level your alts. Like you don't have, like, the nice thing, like, and we are the worst at not pertaining to this, but the idea that you don't have to know life Season of Discovery, at least early on, is really nice. The thing is, we will.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
because that's what we do.
We do it because we have the time to do it.
In.
Yeah, we have the time to do it. That's why it's more like, you know what I mean? But I think it's comfy for anybody. If you just have the normal 9 to 5 and you have a couple hours to play at the end of the day, it's not going to take you a month, 2 months to hit the cap level to play, which is dope. And then when they do raise it, and whenever, that you have 15 more levels to get, and then 10 more levels to get, and so it's really nice. But I do agree with you.
It's going to be like easily accessible stuff. Like let's say you have friends that are like, they're going to come back and play, right? Like super casual, like they just want to play to 25 with you. Like everything in this is super accessible, right? A 10-man raid, so you can experience like the raid with like casual friends, or like world PvP. That's like like one of the best things about, classic era, or like the vanilla world. And Warsong Gulch, like that's like that's what people did back then. Like that was, you jumped into Warsong Gulch with your friends and you just had a blast. Like I think that the casual aspect of this is like actually the selling point for most people.
And I think if I could give one advice to everybody, is to not be that meta chaser. Just go in blind to the game, and Season of Discovery, just discover some shit. This is coming from someone, all three of us who are making videos on this shit. Just ignore them.
Yeah,
don't stay off Reddit, stay off class Discords, and Sarthe muted. Stay off class Discord, stay off everything, and just like go out there, take your time to level, whatever, enjoy the game as it is. Because if you speed rush this shit, you're gonna be done in a day or two, and then you're gonna be like, oh, this is trash. I have nothing to do, unless you're gonna PvP or something. But just enjoy it. You don't need to watch videos. Don't leave the Discords alone. It's not the game is, you kind of know the game. All they do is add a rates to PvP, but they change your favorite class. Whatever it is, they change your favorite class, and that's important to know. And just discover that shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of comments of people being like, "Oh, good thing you made a video. Now there's nothing left to discover, this and that." I'm like,
you don't have to watch it.
You still have to find all these runes. Yeah. We still don't know. We don't know everything, that's in.
Trust, that's the normal comment you'll get all the time.
Anyway. Yeah,
you'll get haters like that all the time. Just ignore that.
And so like, I just know that some of the runes are going to be changed, right? So like, everything will always be changed. So there's no harm in like obviously discussing what you think is going to be the best, what are going to be like the ways to play, or like what talents are going to be you're going to want to run, because you want to have like some plan going in and be able to look out for that. It's always very helpful, right? There's no meta yet, and there's no meta that you need to copy anyways at level 25. It's level 25. At level 60, yeah, eventually once you get into 40-man raids, there is an inherent, like if there's 40 people and if we have 40-man raids, inherently there's meta classes that you stack. That's a literal, like, it doesn't matter. You have so many, there's only a limited amount of classes and there's 40 people. And there is where like your feral druids are having a good time, because every melee group wants to have a feral druid, right?
Well, you also don't need to stack,
and
though.
You get Wind Fury. Yeah, you don't need
speed running. You do. I mean, in your situation, yeah, you do what you were doing, but a large majority, overwhelmingly a majority of the community, you don't need to stack 1,000 warriors. You can play whatever the fuck you want, especially now.
No, but what I'm saying is you can't not, like, at that level, because of how limited the amount of classes and stuff is with 40 people, inherently you need to bring multiples of something. So like, but it doesn't, like, nothing needs to be forced yet, right? Like, you don't need to force a meta, and everything's gonna be fun. I think Warsong Gulch PvP is just like, I'm just excited to like play basically a twink.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Do you guys hope there's gonna be 40-man raids, or do you want them to be like 20, 25 or whatever? I don't like 40-man raids. This is a known thing. It's one of my biggest turnoffs of Classic is 40-man.
See, I enjoy 40-man raids.
Yeah.
To me, it's like super nostalgic. It's just a nostalgia thing, you know? The difference between 25 and 40-man raid is really like, if you think about 40-man raids in vanilla, like with a normal casual guild, think about clearing Molten Core or like AQ, or not AQ, I would say Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. It was basically like 20 to 25 people carrying, 15 more casual players. And I think that going down to 25 is just, it makes it more streamlined, right? Like where it just feels a little bit better, but the 40-man raid to me is like iconic for like Classic era.
Yeah, I think that's it feels very classic to have like one person that always walks into something or forgets their totems or something,
Exactly.
It's just like the epitome of the classic feeling, and I'm excited, and I think that's like, I mentioned it earlier, but like that's like the biggest challenge, is while adding all this new stuff, making us feel like we're playing classic World of Warcraft consistently the whole time, is the biggest challenge for like the WoW team to do, so that it still like tugs at our heartstrings while feeling new.
Yeah.
Nice. I was just curious. I knew Sarthe liked 40 minutes. I was just curious.
I just like raiding, man. I'm such a raiding.
That's the sad part about.
I just love playing the game. I love like finding a new way to do something. I love like testing a new build and like it increasing your damage. I love like when people come up with these like crazy sims that say this is the best, but then you try something and it's like actually a lot better, and then like the sims add it in and stuff, and you're like, this is like that. Like trying new things is what gets me really excited, and like pushing the limits. I'm a big fan of like pushing the limits. Although I'm going to be playing Season of Discovery a lot more casually than I play other versions of WoW, I'm still going to like push the limits.
I'm sure you are. You're going to be no life in that shit. I know you. You're no life in that. What else are you gonna do? You have nothing until Kata. I mean, Lich King, I guess. There's still Lich King, but
I might main other games.
that's what I'm doing. I'm on my variety tip right now, loving it.
I'm just having fun playing other games. But this is like, I literally was on the verge of like very much like hard, like going all in on just playing other games and making videos about other games. Such as like one of my Spider-Man videos, like from last week, has like
I saw that
almost 4 million views now. And it's like, it's just fun to play other games right now, but this is like, it's so new, it's so like
it's hard not to be. I'm
getting super hyped.
I am kind of worried about, I don't know if it's just me, I just feel like, I hope it's not too long for the next phase, because I feel like there's going to be, like, even if you PvP, there's only so much you can do, I feel like, still. Like, if you hit level 25, you PvP, I feel like, let's call it 10 weeks at max to go to the next one. I feel like after a couple weeks, I'm going to be a little like, all right, even if you have alts. All right, unless you're just like, in Hammer Dance's example, he said he wants to play all the classes, which fits him. He can make videos on all of them. That's a little bit different. But then you worry about burnout. It's like a whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something.
The reality of it is, before I level every class, I will get burnout. But I think 10 weeks is, in my opinion, way too long.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be somewhere in the realm of like 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Max.
Well, they said anywhere from 4 to 10 weeks.
I think it's gonna be like 6. I think 6 is.
I hope
and
6.
I think 6 is gonna be. I think 6 is gonna feel really long in the first level bracket at 25, and it's gonna feel perfect at like 40 and 50. Like, I think it's going to feel really, really good at those later ones, as it takes you a little bit longer to hit those level gaps, but also like the raids are harder. There's more content to do. There's more PvP. And like, I think it's going to feel more fun. And I think a big drawing factor, a big thing for people is going to be like community driven events where we host like tournaments where everyone can play in them. And like, so like, I think that's going to add a lot of the fun in between it. But like, I think if you go too hard right away at the level 25 bracket, you're gonna burn yourself out. So I think it's gonna be fun to like play in a relaxed manner.
Yeah, because there's 4 phases total right now announced, right? We have this one, we have 25 to 40, 40 to 50, and 50 to 60.
Yeah.
And then I was talking about this the other day with a buddy, like at 60, we still don't even know what's gonna happen. Are they gonna like phase release like Molten Core with changes, or like, and then phase release BWO with changes, ZG, like,
and then new raids.
Yeah. So we don't really even know how long this season is, right? This could be 12 months, or maybe it could be 18 months. So I do think that the timing when releasing the next phase should be like, it should vary based on the phase. Like, this phase should definitely be faster than the next phase.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this should be the shortest of phases. Definitely the shortest of phases, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Yes, please be the shortest of phases. Like, even a month for this phase is like, you can level all of the classes and test all of the things, you know. Yep. And then at level 40, you can take a little bit more time with it.
I'm checking on something so I can show it real quick. Keep talking. You're good.
No. But yeah, so I think that's how long it'll be. I think like the real content really starts when you're level 60, and when we see like new raids at 60 and stuff. I think them saying that people will still do the like 25-man raid while you're level 40 while you're leveling up. I don't see that's just not the way people play Classic. We're kind of tryhards, and we just try to go to the max level and then do it. But I think at level 60, we get all of these new, like if we get new mechanics, new raids, whilst also having the new builds for the classes, that's where like all of the fun is. And it's like testing it out, and like the new, like we were mentioning at the beginning of this, right? Like there's data mines potentially for like the new tier 2 sets for Paladins or whatever. Like they're reworking the tier sets for it all.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be huge for a lot of this, because like these first 4 phases are just basically like, you know, kind of stretching out and allowing you to play through like Classic era in a different way, with a class that maybe you've been playing for 15 years that now feels totally different, right? So it's a totally new experience. And then, like you just said, when you get to 60, there's like also an entirely, you know, potentially an entirely new endgame as well. So I think that's like super hype, to be honest. That I'm so pumped for that.
Yo, I just sent you 2 pictures. I asked only if I can show them. He said, yeah, but make sure it's cool with you. The one without the dates. Just tease it.
Yeah. You can tease those. Yeah, you can tease those.
All right, guys.
Look at that, guys.
Oh,
Top secret. You heard it here first.
international dueling tournament.
We
Yeah,
can't. We
this
literally
is in
can't
the
tell you
works.
anything, but we can
This
show
is in
you
the
this.
works. So the idea is to have a dueling tournament early, right before the meta is discovered in each of like the level brackets, right? The idea is to have these dueling tournaments early so that like when someone pulls something off, it's crazy. They've discovered like the meta gem or whatever, the meta rune early, and other people don't have it yet. And it also creates this like this secret of like, oh my god, did you know that Sony has this rune that he found, you know? So international dueling tournament, currently in talks with some of the biggest content creators in a couple of the different
In the world.
yeah, in the world, in these
clarify that.
different regions.
The reason it's called an
Literally.
international.
And so it would be played out in these different regions, and then the finales, like after you go through the qualifiers, it would all be played out together, and people would play against each other. So it is in the works. It's a lot of work, as these tournaments are, is a crazy amount of work, but it is
That
looking
is
really,
awesome.
really dope. Yeah,
Hype it up. To be just announced more. Just hype stuff and get ready for fun and mayhem.
Oh yeah.
And maybe it won't be Sony and Snuts. You don't know who it's gonna be. Nobody knows who it'll be. They might find you. They might pull this game and not find shit.
They're so good at the game.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like if Snuts doesn't find meta, he can't.
It's like Snuts,
If I
Chan,
don't-
Trill, they could play anything, and be so good at it. It's
And this is why I
awesome.
want those runes to be not ever found instantly by everybody. Because when day 4 or 5 comes up, and for some reason you can't find meta, or for some reason you can't find, I don't know, name another rune that another class needs, and you're just like, fuck, I like. There's certain things that classes will need, and maybe they can't find them. Maybe
I
fucking
hope
Joe
it's like
Blow,
that, to be honest.
Joe Blow the Paladin. Nobody knows him at all. He doesn't even stream. He's just like in the tournament and claps everybody out because he got all the runes he needed. That's the point of the tournament, is early before everybody gets the runes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Too.
I like that.
Before the meta's figured out. You know, it won't take long for the meta to get figured out.
Yeah, the tournament for this one, it'll be like very, 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 very quickly after launch. Working on all of that stuff, but it'll be very, very quickly so that like you don't have very much time to do shit. That is a large part of the point. But yeah, within a few days, all of the runes are discovered for sure. That's just.
I agree. I hope
that's
not,
just
but I
how it
agree.
is.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah,
It's gonna be.
that's what I feel like's
the
gonna
world
happen.
is too min-maxy not to find them. I seriously really hope not, though. I don't know. I just hope it's like. I imagine it's like 3 a.m. You got to work the next day. You're like, fuck. I'm just scouring the earth, doing that gamer scan thing you do with your mouse when you're going like this until your tooltip gets popped by something, hoping you can find something to pop up on your tooltip. I think it's gonna be dope.
Yep.
But at the same time, you know where to find videos from us if you need to find them. You know it's going to be there. As soon as I find everything on my Warlock, it's getting posted. So
Oh yeah.
if you want to not be spoiled, then stay away from our channels, all right? But at the same time, if you want more content, you know where to find everybody. Do you want to close on that? We're doing another episode in 2 days?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait till Monday? I know your weekend.
Monday. I have wife aggro all weekend.
Okay, my birthday is Tuesday. So Monday, it has to be done Monday.
Hell
Tuesday and then
yeah, it is.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, and then we're back after season discovery. We get to play the game the next week.
Oh yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, everybody look up at the
Is
top of the screen and
next day
follow
gonna be
Summer.
tier list day?
Yeah, we'll go. I think the next
I'm looking
episode,
forward
I
to
would
that.
like to go like pull up the rune list and maybe we touch on each rune briefly and what it means. Maybe.
I honestly think by then we might see some changes to runes. So that'll be if not, then we'll give like a lot more accurate of a tier list, because since we've seen already some mage changes, I think they're looking into things. So
Yeah,
we
and
can
it's
give a very
speculation too.
accurate-
You already know Sarthe and I do some spicy ass tier lists and we don't agree on shit. So this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
but I'm
Hammer
always
Dance
right,
will be
so
our
it's okay.
Hammer Dance will be our middleman. He's definitely not always right, and he doesn't want me to tell you guys this, but his fucking dread is a wig. It's not even real hair. So just know that it's fucking fake hair. All right. But Hammer Dance, you want to say where to find you everywhere, my friend?
Yeah, on YouTube, Hammer Dance Gaming, and on Twitch right here as just Hammer Dance. If you find another Hammer Dance on YouTube, it is me, but it's not a gaming channel. If you need help setting up OBS and stuff, that's the channel you use.
That's fucking
Funnily
good.
enough, I'm actually gonna ping you for stuff. That's so funny.
Sars, your Is this Sarthe or is it Sarthe Gaming on YouTube?
Yeah, obviously, guys, you know where to find me. It's just Sarthe. Sarthe everywhere. So. Technically, I think it's Sarthe TV on X Extreme. But yeah, it's just Sarthe. Actually, no, it might be Sarthe TV. To be honest, on YouTube, I think somebody actually got Sarthe.
If you just YouTube Sarthe, you'll find him. Yeah, who's Sarthe? Never heard of him? Yeah.
Paul Brainard. That's who has it, and he has one video 13 years ago.
I don't want to talk about who has critics. I can never get it anywhere. Fucking crazy.
I didn't figure out how to do that. I've messaged him before too.
I'm about to offer some money to the guy or something.
I don't know if this guy sees his emails. But yeah.
Yep. We'll have this posted sometime this weekend on all 3 channels. So keep luck. Once again, check out Hammer Dance's channel. He's the best. He's one of the best ones out there right now, if not the best. I think he was the first one to touch it. He actually puts in. The YouTube is full of everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people just spamming content out that don't know what the fuck they're talking about and just trying to give views. He's one of the ones who's actually like doing the research on the classes, and you can tell, right? He's not just.
There's a lot of misinformation.
Bro, there is so many people just literally talking about whatever to do whatever, and that's okay. Get your name out there however you want, but like, I respect Hammer Dance, so I respect you, dog. You're actually putting effort in, not just the editing. Just like I can tell you're doing the research on it, right? You don't play all these fucking classes, but you sound like you do. And that's how you know you're actually doing the research, whether that be class discords or theory crafting or whatever it is. And that's the good shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. That's the most important part to me. I'm having a blast. I've loved this game pretty much my whole life, so this is fun.